Imagine China versus the United States. Both want to land humans on the moon this decade. But the truth is, one side has a serious problem that's rarely discussed. It's this problem that could decide who gets there first. Watch this video until the end, and we will tell you everything. Enjoy watching on the Cosmo Dream channel. NASA is trading ambition for realism as it tries to stabilize a program long plagued by delays and technical setbacks. Prominent figures in the U.S. space industry have long acknowledged that NASA moon rocket, the Space Launch System, has gone massively over budget. It has also failed to approach its intended launch cadence. However, under the stewardship of NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman, the agency now appears to be taking decisive steps to address the problem. Critics have pointed out that NASA has had more than 3 years to resolve helium issues affecting the Orion spacecraft ahead of Artemis II. They also note that, under a new Artemis program restructuring, the Artemis III mission will no longer attempt a lunar landing. Yet Isaacman's plan may represent a case of taking a step back in order to move forward. Even so, it may still not be enough for the United States to beat China back to the moon. During a press conference at Kennedy Space Center on Friday, February 27th, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman announced that the agency would restructure its Artemis program, which aims to establish a sustained human presence on the moon and serve as a stepping stone for deeper space exploration. Under the new plan, Artemis III will no longer attempt a lunar landing. Instead, the crewed mission will conduct a rendezvous and docking in low Earth orbit to demonstrate key technologies required for future missions. This would involve one of the commercial human landing systems currently under development, either SpaceX's Starship HLS or Blue Origin's One Malawian Quachalander. Importantly, though, future Artemis missions would be moved forward. This means that if all goes according to plan, and that is of course a big if, there will be 2 lunar landing missions the year after Artemis III. According to Isaacman, Artemis IV is now targeted for early 2028 and would mark the first crewed lunar landing since Apollo 17 in 1972. Artemis V, scheduled for late 2028, could begin construction of early lunar infrastructure, potentially marking the start of more sustained operations on the moon. It's not only about safety, though. NASA's Artemis restructuring is also motivated by concerns over the SLS launch cadence being too slow. NASA officials worry that long waits between missions, as has been the case with Artemis I and II, will contribute to technical issues, loss of muscle memory for teams, workforce retention challenges, and overall program risk. During the press conference announcing the restructuring, Isaacman noted that launching such a complex rocket once every 3 years is not a path to success. The restructuring will address this by standardizing the SLS configuration. The space agency will abandon the planned Block 1B upgrade, including the more complex exploration upper stage, after initial missions. It will stick closer to the existing Block 1 setup with the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, or a near equivalent. This will avoid major configuration changes between flights, which previously slowed production, testing, and integration. Ultimately, the goal is to launch SLS once every 10 to 12 months. While NASA is once again postponing its moon landing, China has already selected 4 landing sites where it plans to send its takonauts by 2030. The Focus Mail explains why the U.S. risks losing its leadership in space. Over the past 5 years, China's space program has been operating nonstop. In 2024, a Chinese probe brought back samples from the far side of the moon for the first time in history. China has built its own space station, landed a rover on Mars, and in 2025 conducted more than 90 orbital launches, setting a new national record. China views space and artificial intelligence as industries that will help it become a global leader, says Dave Cavassa, president of the U.S. Commercial Space Industry Federation. Investment in China's space sector has skyrocketed from $340 million in 2015 to nearly $4 billion in 2025. Over the past decade, the country has spent more than $104 billion on civilian, military, and commercial projects, a figure that still pales in comparison to U.S. spending, which is 5 times higher. Despite this, the Commercial Space Federation, in collaboration with Arizona State University's New Space Initiative, published a report stating that the U.S. may soon cede its dominance in space to China. The turning point came in 2014, when the so-called Document 60 opened the space industry to private investment. There are now more than a dozen private rocket manufacturers in the country, some of which are working on reusable launch vehicles in the spirit of SpaceX. In 2020, China completed the deployment of its own Beidou navigation system, a direct competitor to GPS. Thousands of internet satellites, intended to compete with Starlink, are already on the way. As part of the Belt and Road Initiative, China is building ground stations in Egypt and Pakistan, launching satellites for other countries, and gradually drawing them into its orbit, both technological and political. While China sets new records one after another, NASA is stalling. The Artemis program, designed to return humans to the moon, keeps pushing back its launch dates. First from 2024 to 2027, and now to 2028. The Space Launch System rocket, which has been under development since 2011, has completed only one successful flight, in November 2022. Experts note that the program has faced numerous delays due to technical issues, including fuel leaks and system malfunctions. SpaceX's Starship, which is planned to be used for a lunar landing, has also been unable to pass tests without accidents. In May 2025, the 9th test flight ended in failure. The spacecraft lost control upon re-entry into the atmosphere. To make matters worse, the Trump administration initiated massive layoffs. Nearly 4,000 employees left the agency under a voluntary separation program. That's about 20% of NASA's staff. Experts fear that the loss of skilled personnel will exacerbate technical problems. Thank you for watching the video on my channel Cosmo Dream.